on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
I think, like we're always kind of looking for that magic bullet and the X factor. And I think it's like a lot of it is just down to branding. Well, like inside the book, I think it's pacing. That's a discussion for another day.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers, no more barriers, no one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Yes, hello, it is the Self-Publishing Show with James Blatch in Huntingdon, UK.
And Mark Dawson in Salisbury, UK, which is much prettier than Huntingdon.
That is true. Although we have a lovely market square. I don't know if you've seen our market square.
I drove through it, yes.
Oh, did you? Okay, yes. With a a war memorial sculpture called The Thinking Soldier, which is really worth a visit, designed by, who was that naturalist? Peter Scott's wife in the 1920s. It really is a beautiful sculpture. It's a soldier contemplating the tragedy of what he's just been through, and I find it very stirring. Right, enough waffle from us. We do get criticised occasionally by someone who doesn't like the waffle, and then lots of other people say, we love the waffle. Who knows? Right, we are now talking paid ads this week in these special episodes, 2 bonus episodes in addition to our regular Friday episode. Yesterday we talked about Facebook ads with the excellent Shane Silvers, and today we have the also excellent Dave Gaughran to talk about BookBub ads. So BookBub, and I have a little BookBub love-in with David at the end of this interview because they're just an organisation that seem to get it right to me. They really focus on readers. They've got everything they do works well, and if it doesn't work well, they tweak it and make sure that it does. They're really earnest and an enthusiastic team, actually lovely people as well. And there are lots of organisations, right, that come and go in this indie world at the moment, and not all of them are as wholesome as we'd like them to be, but BookBub are definitely, as far as I can tell, some of the good guys.
Oh, God, yeah. No, I went over there twice last year to Boston to see them. I strolled past when I can't remember exactly what I was doing, but I kind of, both times going over to conferences, I took a stop in Boston to go and see them, and I spoke to like an all hands meeting to like 100 of them the second time. And it's really great. They're really lovely people. And they're smart, they're clever, they're working on some new things in the background that they haven't announced yet that I think will be really fun. Some things that people have been asking for ages, they are working on. So yeah, I'm a big fan of BookBub. And also, we're not talking about their featured deals today, which is the kind of the thing they're known for. But I do see occasionally in the various Facebook communities that I'm in that people are moaning that BookBub ads don't work anymore. And I have one answer to that. kind of like Horlicks. Well, actually, no, Horlicks doesn't sound like bollocks, does it? But anyway, there you go. It's
Rollocks. Rollocks. Use on a boat. Yeah, that sounds like bollocks, because we can't say bollocks, can we?
We couldn't say bollocks, no. So let's say it's nonsense. They do work really well. I had one not too long ago, last month, that did really well. They're probably not as effective as they were like 4 years ago, because like everything else, there's much more competition now. Facebook ads aren't as effective as they used to be, but they're still effective, and BookBub ads are still very effective too. So don't believe that if you hear it.
Okay, well, let's talk to Dave Gaughran about the platform. Now, I should say right at the beginning, David, on the day that we were due to interview, suddenly had to flee to Lisbon, not for financial reasons, but because he had a domestic thing to sort out. I think he's got a flat that he owns there. But he very kindly, we were communicating as he was on the bus to his flat trying to work out the Wi-Fi would be enough. We got a signal together in his flat. It's not brilliant and the sound is not perfect, but nonetheless, you can hear us both talking. So just warning you that is the case in advance. Let's hear from Dave, and then Mark and I will be back to look at a couple of examples that Dave sent us after the interview.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Dave, welcome back to the Self-Publishing Forum. I think the last time you were on the Self-Publishing Show, we were probably sitting in the clammy confines of a Floridian hotel room.
We were, and I remember because of the sound setup, we had to interfere with the air conditioning, which made it a very, very hot interview.
And now I'm in the cold, dry air of the UK, but you're clammy somewhere. Was it warm? I don't know if it's warm where you are.
It's indescribably warm. It's about 35 degrees officially, but I think they're lying. I think it's about 55 degrees. That's what it feels like to this Irish man. Anyway, we're not built for the hot weather.
No. So you're in Portugal today, and I'm very grateful for the fact that we've snatched some time out of your busy schedule to talk about BookBub ads, which have come out of nowhere a couple of years ago and are now part of the toolkit that many indie authors are using. Why don't we start just to bring people up to date with, because not everyone is intimately familiar with these things like we are. So what is BookBub, and where did the ads platform come from?
Okay, so let's start at the top. I would say, even just to take off our writer hats for a minute and just think of ourselves as readers for a moment. I think everyone should sign up to BookBub as a reader. It's a really cool website where they send out daily deals, free books, 99-cent books, 1.99 books in every imaginable genre, and you can indicate which genres you're interested in as a reader, whether that's science fiction or erotic romance or anything really, horror. Like they've got about 30 different categories now, and you pick whichever categories you're interested in, and you'll get an email every day with several books in it, which are all going to be between free and 1.99. And some of them will be huge authors like John Grisham. Some of them will be indies. Some of them will be guys that you haven't heard of. But the big thing about it is they put a lot of effort into curation. So it's actually quite hard to get a deal. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment. But the level of the books you're getting recommended is usually, there's a lot more curation than some of the other sites. So even just as a reader, I recommend signing up and just seeing what's going on. I buy a couple of books a week just from the emails. Like, it is really good quality recommendations. So as a writer, getting in that email is something that we're all shooting for. I think they only accept about 20% of applications. It's quite difficult to get a deal. And the reason for that is because they've such a huge audience. I was actually chatting to them recently and asking, because they used to have a public thing on their website saying how many readers they had, and they stopped doing that recently. And I was just asking if they could share how many people they have on their mailing list now. It's over 10 million readers.
Wow.
Across all their different mailing lists. So if you go to our website as an advertiser, they'll actually tell you how many people are on each category. So I think the biggest one might be crime. I think has maybe 3 million readers or something. So like it's a lot of the other sites are a lot cheaper. They have much smaller audiences. BookBub is just like several leagues above any other site in that space, where you can have your deal being shown to millions and millions of readers.
Yeah, and that's why they're so sought after, as you say. Those, I think they call them featured deal spots. Is that the terminology?
Yeah, that's the nomenclature that they have. Featured deals, and you can sign up as a reader, and you'll get several books in your email every day, depending on how many genres you picked. When you sign up, and they'll all be either 99 cents or free or 1.99. The prices are starting to creep up a little bit.
Okay, so within the last couple of years, so up until maybe 18 months ago, whenever the platform changed a little bit, that was the only way you could get into that email, was to be selected, go through that curation. You say teams of people in Boston, I think they're in the East Coast somewhere, who look at your reviews, look at your writing. I mean, it's properly done with humans, which is why they put a lot of effort into the quality of their recommendations, which is obviously the secret to their success. And then they started opening up a paid slot on the emails.
Yeah, so if you are a subscriber, if you scroll down to the bottom of your email, at the very bottom, there's a little ad slot. It's almost a kind of a squarish kind of box, which is kind of a pay-per-click advertising platform that's open to anybody. Like, you don't have to apply like the featured deals. You can advertise on that whenever you like. There's no real restrictions on who can advertise there. As long as you're pointing towards a book and you're advertising a book, they give you pretty much free reign. The only thing you can't actually advertise there is a reader magnet, which something that should be pointed out. And they won't allow you to do that. But as long as your book's on sale at a retailer, even if you're selling from your own site, you can point to your own site. They don't mind that. But as long as it's a book on sale somewhere and you're not just using this to collect email addresses. They'll let you advertise pretty much anything. And what's really interesting about BookBub as an advertising platform, well, there's a number of things, and I think actually when it comes to any advertising platform, whether that's Amazon ads or Facebook ads or BookBub ads, I think it's very important to lean into the kind of unique strengths of the platform and not be rowing against the tide. So like there's certain things that BookBub ads are very good at. There's certain things that BookBub ads are less good at. And I think it's important to embrace the strengths, and that goes for any platform that you're advertising on. And with BookBub, the unique thing that it really makes BookBub ads particularly powerful, and I think people get surprised when they advertise there. Once they get the hang of it, and once their ads are optimized, like the conversion rates on BookBub ads are phenomenal. They're like leagues better than Amazon ads. They're considerably better than Facebook ads. Like I routinely get conversion rates of 25% or higher, which is unbelievable for advertising. And sometimes a lot higher. I think the reason for that is because the ads are being delivered by email. So like anybody that has a reasonably good email strategy will know that email is different to social channels. It's different to Facebook. It's different to Twitter. It's different to even blogging. There's something more intimate about email. I think anyone with a reasonably sized mailing list, mailing list will know that your conversion rates on something in an email will be a lot better than in a blog post. It just converts better. So being able to advertise in an email, like it really changes the equation. Like because when you're running the numbers on something like Amazon ads or Facebook ads, like you're often dealing with, like sometimes in Amazon ads your conversion rate might be 5% or 10%, or sometimes 15% of your ads are really cooking. But like when your conversion rate is that high at 25%, that really changes the equation with regards to what you're spending and what kind of return that you're getting.
Okay, I've got a few follow-up questions to things in those answers. So first of all, just to clarify that you can't put a book on there that's free. You can't give a book away via this ad.
Well, you can. You can if your book is free on Amazon, and if it's free on Kobo or Barnes and Noble. It's just not a reader magnet that you're giving away free on your website. So I think their actual rule is if the purpose of the ad is to drive signups to an email list, it's not permitted. But any free book is fine. Any full price book, any deal. It's usually better to have some form of deal, like a 99-cent book or a free book. You'll get far better return on that approach because it's a deals newsletter. Like that's usually the first question I get asked about BookBub ads. People want to know if they can advertise full price books there because everyone wants to advertise full price books. But that's one of the things that BookBub is actually weaker at. It's harder. It's not impossible to sell full price books. Like when I say full price, I mean $2.99, $3.99, $4.99. But it's a deals newsletter. So if you put yourself in the reader's shoes, which is always a good thing to do, and you imagine you're there getting your daily email, and there's books in the email from people like Stephen King, and then he's selling a book for $1.99 or 99 cents, and they scroll down to your ad, and you're trying to sell a $4.99 book. It's difficult. So yeah. I think BookBub's biggest strength for me is I don't advertise all the time on BookBub. I wait until I'm putting together a big promotion, and then BookBub acts like this accelerant. It can really take a promotion to the next level. That's, I think, the biggest strength. Okay, well,
I'll ask you a bit more about strategy in a moment. So a couple of other quick points then. You said that the advert's open to anyone. Certainly in the early days, you had to apply to be approved to advertise on BookBub. Is that still the case, or is it literally a platform you can literally sign up to and advertise on?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's open to everybody now. I think that was when it was in beta. You had to kind of apply, and they were kind of selective at the start when they were just slowly rolling it out, and then they were more open. And now I think it's just open to anybody. So as soon as you go to BookBub, you can sign up for a partner's account, I think it's called, and I think they approve you very quickly.
Right, you just froze there, Dave, but I understood the last part of your sentence was they'll approve you very quickly. Okay, and my final question from the opening sort of gambit was, you talked about the excellent conversion rates, and they really are excellent. As you say, emails are a more personal medium, I think, which is why that works like that. So what about upscaling? Is there such a thing with BookBub ads? If you're getting great returns, most people would be happy to put more money in.
Yeah, for sure. This is actually my favorite thing about BookBub ads, because I think people get very surprised when they start using BookBub ads about how responsive the platform is. Like, you're used to, with Amazon ads, sometimes you're waiting up to 3 days to get reports on how your ads are doing, and that for me feels like swimming in treacle or something. An ad might be taking off, but you only find out 3 days later, and then you try and turn up the budget, then you got to wait 3 more days to see the result of that. But BookBub, it's almost instantaneous. You can put up an ad, and within 5 minutes it'll start serving. It's like Facebook sometimes takes an hour or two to fully kind of ramp up. BookBub, it goes from 0 to 60 in the click of a finger. So that has good points and bad points. If your ads are bad, it means you can lose money very quickly. If your ads are good, it means you can scale up almost instantaneously. So you have to be a little bit smart about how you manage it. Like I kind of micromanage my BookBub ads a little bit, where I'll only give them a budget of $10 or $15 until I see that the ad is converting really well, and then I will turn it up. And like if you wanted to spend $200 in an afternoon, it'll do that, and it'll do it very well if your ads are optimized. So that's really it's a really good tool to have in your toolbox. My main use for BookBub ads up until about a year ago was kind of a get out of jail free card, because there's no other platform that's that responsive. So if I was doing a big marketing campaign or a giant launch, I would kind of keep BookBub ads in my back pocket, where if something was going slightly off kilter, I knew I could throw down $300 or $400 or $500 and get a certain amount of sales for that. It's like once you get the hang of the platform, it's the most predictable and most consistent and most responsive platform.
Great.
That, as I said, cuts both ways. Like if you go in there and you haven't tested your ads and you haven't tested your images that you're targeting, and you throw down $100, you'll lose it in a second, and you'll see very little back from that. So I think it's really, really important to go through the testing process and take that slowly and spend a bit of time nailing down which author targets, which will actually work for you on BookBub.
Yeah, I mean, again, Mark's very keen on people starting slowly, starting small and scaling up slowly as well when that happens. Although by the sounds of it, BookBub is the platform where you can move quickly once you sort of hit that oil spurt.
Yeah, and it's not like, in my experience with Facebook, I tend to start slowly there as well, but you kind of have to ratchet it up. I might increase the budget from like $10 to $50 to $100 and kind of check it everywhere along the way to make sure nothing has gone wrong. With BookBub, I find if that $10 or $15 is returning a good CTR, I can just turn it up, and then I know that it's going to work. So it's nice to have something kind of hands off like that in your toolbox. It's very, very useful.
Okay, so let's go back to strategy. You started alluding to how you use the platform in your sort of cycle of book selling. So most people, I don't know what most people do, but let's take an average author who might produce 2 or 3 books a year. Seems like quite a lot from where I'm sitting, but seems to be what people do. Where should they be looking at BookBub? You've talked about it being a launch tool.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of this will come down to whether you're exclusive with Amazon or whether you're a wide author, because I think there's kind of 2 different approaches to marketing depending on which way you're going with your books. So let's talk about a wide author for a moment first. They'll tend to lean more on things like perma-free. So if you're using BookBub ads there, you'll have more of a kind of a drip approach. You might just have a daily budget of $5, $10, $20 a day, depending on your needs. They'll be slowly funneling people into your free book one, and who will go on then to buy further books in the series, and that's where your profit will come from. With a KU author, it's a bit different. You kind of approach marketing in a different way, or at least I do for KU books. I tend to focus more on doing big, huge promotions over like a 5-day period or a 7-day period, when you're doing your KDP Select 5-day free run, or you're doing a countdown deal for 7 days. And I tend to focus the marketing in that period, and then do pretty much no marketing for the rest of the month, sometimes for even longer. I can just post off the big blast that I've done in those 5 to 7 days. So in that case, then you're looking to spend as much money as possible in a window. It's a very different kind of approach. But the good thing about BookBub ads is you can scale up really, really fast, as we were saying, which you can't really do with AMS or with Amazon ads. It's very difficult. It doesn't have that kind of instant feedback to give you, to let you know how you're doing with it. And for me at least, with Amazon ads, I find it just gives kind of a nice baseline of sales. I can't, if I want to go and spend $1,000 in 5 days, I can't really do that on Amazon ads. I can definitely do that in BookBub.
Yeah. Amazon ads are notoriously difficult to scale up, aren't they? So, and just to clarify, as you mentioned wide and exclusives, I should have asked that at the beginning. There's no reason, if you're exclusive to Amazon, that you can't run BookBub ads, because I think there's, as I remember rightly in the email, you get tabs basically underneath the book to where you want to buy it. And if you're exclusive to Amazon, you would just have the Amazon tab there. Others might have Kobo and Apple, etc. there as well.
Yeah, right. So when you're a reader and you sign up, you indicate which retailer you buy from. And like some people will indicate multiple retailers, but most readers will just have one retailer where they buy from, whether that's, iBooks or Kobo or Amazon. And so they will only see Kobo deals in their newsletter. They will only see Kobo ads. So, if you're a KU author, if you're exclusive to Amazon, you will only show your ad to people who are buying at Amazon. And same goes for Kobo and iBooks and Barnes and Noble. So they have a very good system with making sure that the right people see the right ads. And you have that level of targeting on there's not a huge amount of options with BookBub ads. It's not like Facebook where you can kind of get lost in all the options, but you can target by retailer, you can target by country, which is very useful. So, if you only want to advertise in the US and the UK, for example, which you might want to do, if you have a Countdown deal, for example, because they're only in the US and the UK. So they don't exist in Canada. So you don't want to advertise to Canadian people. So BookBub allows you just to show your ad to people in the US and UK. Or, for example, maybe you're trying to actively build up in a certain market. Maybe it's the Australian market. You want to spend a bit extra there to build up your readership there. You can just run ads to the Australian market. Or same goes for if you want to actively build up at Barnes and Noble or Apple. You can spend more money there, or you can just target those readers if you wish. The most important thing about targeting, which we should probably talk about, is that the main targeting in BookBub, and this is what makes it pretty unique, is just done by author. You can target by genre, but that's not really recommended because, as I said, like there's millions of readers on some of these lists, so you don't want to advertise to 3 million people. You want to drill down to the author who is a good comp author, someone who writes similar to you or share an audience with, and that's the best way to approach BookBub ads.
And finding out those authors, we've had some discussion about this in the past, and a few authors have told us they've been surprised after they've been operating for a year or so of running a survey or looking at the auto boards that you can't necessarily easily predict what sort of other authors you're comparable to. You might have one idea, but your readers might have another idea. Is there any help within the BookBub universe to find those authors for you?
Well, I just want to speak about comp authors more generally, and then I'll talk about how it works in the BookBub ecosystem, because it's a little bit different to other platforms that people might be more familiar with. I think one of the ways that this is one of many areas where our inner artist kind of leads us astray when we talk about comp authors. So I think a lot of us, well, I do anyway, get kind of tied up in knots when I start thinking about comp authors, like who do I write like? If I'm going to say I write like Bernard Cornwell, like, he sold 100 million books or something. So that seems like a big claim to make, So, but you've kind of got to, I think the best way to think about it is who do I share an audience with instead of who do I write like? Because if you start thinking about who do you write like, you might write like nobody. You might be, if you drill down far enough, your voice is unique. Like that's your fingerprint as an author. But who do you share an audience with? And I could say I share an audience with Bernard Cornwell. I'm not, bigging myself up too much there or making any bold claims, but, we are aiming for the same set of readers. He's doing it slightly more successfully than I am, but we are aiming at the same segment of the market. So I can say Bernard Cornwell is a comp author for me. Now that's just speaking generally, and he is a good target for me on Amazon ads and on Facebook. But when you come to BookBub is its own little universe, and I think, a lot of people will have already advertised on Amazon ads or maybe Facebook as well before they come to BookBub. And they might have a list of authors that they target on Amazon and they target on Facebook. And they might even be in their also bots on Amazon. And they are, in the real world, good comp authors for them. That doesn't mean they're going to be a good comp author for you on BookBub. BookBub is its own little world with its own little rules. And you have to individually test each author on BookBub to make sure it's a good comp author for you on BookBub. And the reasons for that are partly down to how BookBub is structured. So they've been building out all these kind of social aspects to the site. It's getting more than the deals newsletter that we talked about. It's turning more into a kind of a Goodreads, where it has social aspects where, you know, readers can review books and they can follow authors, and they kind of want to make the site a bit more of a destination now. That's definitely the way they've been pivoting over the last couple of years. And that means that, you know, some authors who might be genuinely huge author in the real world mightn't have too many followers on BookBub, because the amount of followers that you have as an author, like I think I have, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 followers now. And there's some like genuinely huge, like Nobel Prize winning authors who might only have a couple of thousand followers on BookBub. And even though they've sold, you know, 50 million books or something, because what gets you followers on BookBub is running featured deals and running advertisements. They're the things that will generate followers. So there might be someone, I think in my book, I talked about Isabel Allende, she's either won the Nobel Prize or has been in the running for it several times. She's sold 100 million books or more, critically acclaimed, huge career, lots and lots of books. And she only has a couple of thousand followers because her publisher has never run a featured deal for her books. She's never run any BookBub ads. So in the world of BookBub, she's not a huge author. So someone who you think will be a solid gold comp author for you might not be in BookBub. You have to test it individually there.
And this is something that's the reason you start low with those £5 and £10 investments and watch carefully.
Yeah, I think, in my book, I think it's something like 25% of the book is all about the testing process. And I'll be straight with you, it's the bit that people find most frustrating. But you only have to do it once, and the good thing about BookBub, as I said before, is the consistency. So if I discover, that an author is a good comp author for me on BookBub, that won't change. I haven't had to ditch any of my comp authors over the last couple of years. I think there was only one time when I had to remove an author from my targeting because he just blew up and he had so many followers that it just became too big an author to target. But aside from that, if you're getting good result targeting an author, that you will continue to get good results, and you don't have to rejig that at all.
So for people who want to start out on BookBub ads, I think one bit of advice you gave right at the beginning is make sure you're a reader and on the list so you understand how it works and the email, become familiar with all of that. So I think that's a really good tip for anybody. In fact, you should think like a reader for every platform, by the way. It's a really important part of you being a good advertiser on there. Would you recommend they start by trying to get a featured deal, or does it not matter whether you've had a featured deal in the past?
No, I think you should, if you have a chance to get a featured deal, you should grab it with both hands. There's no such thing as a sure thing in the world of marketing, but a BookBub featured deal is definitely the closest thing to it. They are expensive. I think for the biggest categories like crime, I think they run to something like $1,000. For the smaller categories, where they have, considerably less audience, I think it might only be like $200 to $250. But that's still a fair chunk of change. But I will say that you will make that money back. Like 99% of people make that money back within 24 hours. A good chunk of them will double or triple their money over the next couple of days. A BookBub deal in the bigger categories can throw you into the top 50 on Amazon. It really is huge. You'll sell thousands of books. So if you get a chance for a featured deal, absolutely go for it. The problem is that you usually don't get accepted, and you still want to access that huge audience of 10 million readers, because these guys really are readers. They are power readers. They're definitely the guys that you want on your mailing list, that you want working through your series. So it's a really valuable audience to reach. So if you can't get a featured deal, basically BookBub ads, it's not quite your plan B. I think there's a lot of uses for BookBub ads, even if you're one of the authors that is getting featured deals every month. You still want to advertise to this audience because it's something that you control and you can do it whenever you like. And there's a lot of things you can do with the ad platform that you can't do with featured deals because you don't control that as directly. But the two can be quite symbiotic and feed off each other.
And you move on to your first foray into advertising on BookBub. And is it, if you've got a series, is it the traditional advertising thing of focusing on the first book in the series for your advertising money?
Yeah, well, I actually, like that that strategy isn't bad, but I think the most important thing with BookBub ads is to make sure that you have some kind of offer in the ad. As I said before, you can advertise full price books, but if you're trying to do that in your first go out before you've really nailed down your targets and before your images are really good quality, it's really, really difficult. So I strongly recommend starting out advertising a deal. Like a 99-cent deal, I think is best of all, because especially when you're testing, because sometimes you'll get very high click-through rates on a free deal, and they might mask some kind of problems with your targeting an image. But a 99-cent deal is definitely best for testing, for checking which authors will work best for you, for checking your images. I think this is something that authors don't spend enough time on. I think some people get a little bit lazy, or maybe they're not graphic designers, which is fine. You can hire it out. Like you can hire someone to design a BookBub ad for you for, I think, $20 or $30 is what I paid the last time I hired it out. I make them myself now in Canva, and I am not remotely artistic, but like just with practice, I've gotten pretty good at designing BookBub ad images now. So I think anybody can do it. Canva is free, so you can just play with it and see if it's something that's going to work for you. But if you really don't want to do that, just hire it out. $20 or $30, you'll have a BookBub ad, and if you design it in the right way, you'll be able to reuse that multiple times. But actually, the best thing and the easiest thing to do is when you're getting your book cover done for a small amount extra, and sometimes designers will just throw this in for free. Get all sorts of promo graphics made with your book cover, like get a Facebook header image, a Twitter image, like some branding for your website. For a small amount of extra money, you can get all these extra images, and they're like, for a professional designer who has all the tools at their disposal, they can knock this stuff up really quickly. Once you tell them the dimensions that you need for a BookBub ad or for a Facebook ad, they'll be able to knock them up really quickly, and you'll be able to just reuse them. I get a few variations done so you can test and see what works. But yeah, spend a bit of time on the image, especially at the start, before you know what audiences really respond to. I think one of the traps that people fall into tends to be, like with Facebook, there's all these, or there used to be very strong restrictions around text. They've kind of changed that a little bit. But at BookBub, there's no restrictions. And again, one of the unique things about BookBub ads is it's just the image that's doing the selling for you. You don't have any text there at all. So people tend to go a bit wild with that freedom and put too much text on their ads. Some of them have they've got like 50 words, and it's only a small little box, So I would actually say like a pared back approach. I've done a lot of testing on this in all sorts of different genres. I think a very pared back approach is usually what gets best results. I think like the book cover front and center, something highlighting the deal, like a big obnoxious price tag, saying free. A button is something that people always respond to. And then, if you have a really cool tagline, throw it in there. But if you don't have one, I wouldn't sweat it. Sometimes just the book cover and some background and a price tag is enough, and that'll work.
Yeah, that's a really good tip you buried in there, Dave, which is to, when you get your book cover done, do get the images, pay extra. It won't be very much if you're up front from the beginning. Don't try and do this afterwards. Don't deconstruct something they've given you without their permission. But if they know in advance you're going to want the layers, for instance, and the dimensions of the various advertising platforms you work on, most designers will be more than happy to do that for a modest amount more. But that, as you say, makes all the difference for professional looking adverts.
Yeah, and just like in terms of consistent branding, like if you look at the really big selling authors, like I think, we're always kind of looking for that magic bullet and the X factor. And I think it's like a lot of it is just down to branding. Well, like inside the book, I think it's pacing. That's a discussion for another day.
Uh-huh.
But outside the book, I think it's consistent branding. Like you look at their bio on Amazon, you look at their Twitter profile, like everything is just in harmony. So when you are getting your cover design, make sure to commission all sorts of assets to go with that. Not just your BookBub ads, but Facebook ads and your Facebook cover photo and everything. And I think that's one thing that really makes the bestsellers kind of stand apart, is that kind of consistency in branding. And actually, this is another reason why you should, even if you are commissioning all this stuff, which is what I did at the start playing around in Canva anyway, and just to get your kind of your hands dirty. And it gives you just a deeper understanding of branding, I think, just playing around with that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you say to the big authors that the branding is good. There's no reason why an indie author can't actually be better at branding, because we control almost every aspect, so every web page, every Facebook account, every Amazon author profile. So you can actually be really on top of the game here.
Yeah, no. When I think of big authors, like I'm thinking of like my role models, the people I'm looking to are people like C.D. Rice and Cheryl Bradshaw. I'm thinking of the big indies who are
Yes.
doing all the smart things. Like John Grisham probably doesn't even know what his branding looks
No.
like. Like
No, we always laugh when we see a traditional publishing big author Facebook advertising. It's usually strewn with errors. Which reminds me, whilst I'm on the subject, it would be great to see some examples of good BookBub ads, Dave. So maybe something that Mark and I can talk about immediately after this interview, and we'll put them up on the screen for people watching on YouTube. So perhaps afterwards, the next day or two, if you could forward me maybe a couple of your own or a couple of others that you've seen have caught your eye that you think work well, it'd be good. Good for some best practice inspiration for people.
Yeah, for sure. And like I should point out that BookBub have a lot of cool resources, free resources on their site. Like they have an excellent blog, but they also have they have regular posts where they show like some of the highest performing ads from 2018, and they've lots of galleries of winning ad images, and there's lots of great stuff out there that you can access and look through and get a sense of what really works for audiences in different genres.
Yeah. How much, do you know, percentage-wise, how much you're spending on BookBub compared to Amazon and Facebook?
Yeah, well, this is really interesting because I kind of did a survey of what I was spending on different platforms and CTRs and CPCs, and I was because when you have your nose to the grindstone, you see a lot of variance and bid prices going up and down and spends and all that. But when I actually zoomed back and was just looking at kind of on a book level, on a more meta level, CPCs had remained remarkably consistent and CTRs had remained remarkably consistent. And this is across Facebook and BookBub. But one thing that jumped out a mile was I could probably maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I could probably spend $300 or $500 on BookBub before the wheels came off. This is doing like a KU focused promotion where I'd be trying to spend as much as possible over 5 or 7 days and just get as much visibility as possible. But there was a kind of a hard limit to how many people I could show my ads to where I'd still get a decent response. But now, like 2 years later, because they've built all these social aspects on the site and because they've grown their audience so much and because all these things where people are reviewing books and recommending books generates more emails from the website to people's inboxes, which means there's more billboards for us to advertise on, if you like. Effectively now, I can spend 4 or 5 times as much and still get the same kind of good results that make it worthwhile for me. So that's just in the space of 18 months. My effective spend has grown 4 or 5 times there, where it's remained relatively stable on Facebook and Amazon ads. It's gone up a tiny bit, but that's where I personally have seen the biggest growth.
Yeah, so you're a fan of the BookBub ads platform.
Yeah, like it's definitely got its pros and cons, its strengths and weaknesses. But once you don't row against the tide too much, once you know what it's good at and lean into those strengths, for me it's my favorite ad platform right now.
Yeah, great. Well, it's a fantastic overview and scraping down to some of the detail. I think we should say that a lot of organisations have started in the last few years on the sort of indie wave that's going on at the moment, sort of revolution, if you want to use that word. And we're quite rightly sceptical of some, and you're like the shop steward of the indie world, Dave, and you quite rightly point the finger when things aren't necessarily right. But BookBub have built, I think, a really good platform, a very reader-focused platform. It's very neat. It seems to work. It's attractive to be a part of. And it's really pleasing to hear that the ads platform side of it, which is fairly new for them, is in the same way is working.
Yeah, and I think part of that is down to the people they have on the ground. Like they spend a lot of time going to all sorts of writer conferences. If you've been to any conference in the States, you've probably met the team, and some of the bigger retailers, I think they'll turn up to some events and it kind of feels like a duty for them, like they have to be there and they're ticking a box. Whereas BookBub feel like they're actually listening, like they actually want to know what your problems are with various aspects of the platform. And again, it's not just a box ticking exercise. Like you'll say something to them, and then they'll fix it within a month, and you're like, wow, I wasn't really expecting that to happen.
That was a real conversation.
Like, that's not. Yeah, you were actually paying attention. But no, that's not just my experience. Like that's like everyone else I talk to, and when they interface with the team, like they're actually listening. They actually want suggestions. They want to build it. It's kind of the same vibe you get when you're talking to the Kobo guys. They actually want to build things in a way that's most useful to us. And Amazon is far too big to take that approach anymore. So it is really nice to have companies like that who genuinely, it's not just corporate blather. They genuinely do want to listen to our problems and try and fix them.
Yeah, fantastic. Good, Dave. Well, I'll let you get back out in the sun. I hope you've got some slap with you.
Yeah, I'm going to need it. I'm going to need one of those little kind of parasols,
Yeah, to walk around with. Well, look, we benefit a lot from your knowledge and your work and experience here. We should say you have a book available. Now's your chance.
I do, yes. It's called BookBub Ads Expert, and it's quite a considerable tome. I think it's 40 or 50,000 words. So it spends a lot of time talking about things that we couldn't really get into here, like deeper levels of strategy and how to run campaigns to support a launch, or if you've got a perma-free book, or what ways you should do things differently if you're in KU, if you're wide. And I think, like as I said, about a quarter of the book goes through testing, because that's really the most important part. And then it's got all sorts of kind of advanced tips at the end, which, once your ads are optimized, you've gone through the testing process, there's some really cool things that you can do once you've got your targeting nailed down. And actually, there's because you were talking about ad images and stuff. There's this is one of the funky things about ebooks. Like you can't really put a lot of images in ebooks. I'm sure that's something you guys have run into. Without the delivery fees getting bumped up. So this is something I just realized as I was kind of formatting the book. So I built this kind of private page on my website, which anybody who buys the book can access. And it's got a gallery of ad images. It's got all sorts of detailed optimization advice. And it's really cool because, as things kind of change on the platform, instead of having to go back and, change aspects of the book, I just put up a new section on the website, and there's people are in the comments kind of helping each other with targeting advice, and it's kind of building organically into quite a cool little resource. But for anyone who's not fully on board the BookBub train just yet, there's also a free course I have at Reezy. Now it's super basic. It's not gonna teach you everything how to use the platform. But if you want something just like bite-sized, I think you get 10 emails over 10 days, and you can read them in 5 minutes, and it'll just give you a very, very super basic grounding on the platform.
Fantastic. Great. Dave, thank you so much indeed for your time today. Really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, a lot of traveling on your hands today, so thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There you go. Yes, apologies. The sound wasn't quite up to our normal standards here, certainly on the Lisbon end. However, very grateful for Dave for taking the time to do that. And he speaks very eloquently about the platform. And he gave us some examples. So we're going to go through those. They are numbered 1 to 4. They're in the pack if you go to selfpublishingshow.com/adsnow, ADSNOW. You can have a look at these examples along with us, and we'll try and put them on screen. We will put them on screen in the YouTube version as well. So example 1. Now, he did talk about less is more with BookBub ads. They're quite small at the bottom of the email, and you don't need to put a lot of stuff on there. And he said one of the mistakes people make is to put too much text on screen. And this is a great example of a minimalist ad that people may well click on because it tells the story in image form.
Yeah, exactly. David is pretty good at this. He's actually done, I don't know, I have to admit, I haven't listened to the interview yet, so I don't know whether he mentioned, but he has run some BookBub ads for me before. So I paid him to do a couple of months worth of work to run some BookBub ads just to, so I could get some data to see how they're performing. And David is very thorough when it comes to how he puts these things together, his ads together. And so we're looking at Invasion first. So Jay Allen, and that's a science fiction author. It's very minimal in terms of the content. It's got the book cover. It's then got the artwork from the cover as its background, and then just the word new. So that is, I mean, it's really skimpy in terms of the content, but the genre is obvious. It's clearly science fiction. It's, you know, a nice bright yellow box there with the new standing out. So it will stand out at the bottom of those ads. And bear in mind, of course, that he'll be targeting this, so it goes to readers of science fiction. So they will be very warm in terms of this. It's called Invasion. That's a very popular kind of subgenre, invasion, science fiction invasion novels. I can see this will working quite well, and it just, as you said, it really does exemplify that less can be more for these kinds of ads.
And you've got to keep focused on what the aim of this ad is. The aim of this ad is to get a click, and the click will go through to your Amazon page. And on your Amazon page, or wherever, presumably Amazon page, at that point, you've got a lot more detail about the book. You've got your blurb, you've got reviews, all the rest of it. So in a way, the more you put on this advert, once you've told people it's exciting, it's in their genre, and it's new, the more you put might be reasons for them not to click. So I think that works very well in that sense. Now, there is a few more words on some of the other adverts. We look at example 2, Mark.
So that one is One Tequila by Trisha O'Malley. So a little bit different in terms of the content we've got. They've certainly got much more text. So the book cover, so it's a flat 2D version of the book cover over on the left-hand side. And then just a kind of a blank background. I'm not entirely sure what that background actually is, but it doesn't really matter. It's not important. The text there: a psychic, a witch, and a voodoo priestess walk into a bar. So very nicely establishing the tone and the content there. So, you know, we know there's going to be some magic, something along those lines is going to be contained within the book. Beneath that, we've got the word magically in a magically fun mystery with over 400 5-star reviews on Goodreads. So establishing some social proof there with that in terms of the number of reviews and the fact that they're 5-star reviews. And then just finally a little blue button that says free today. So BookBub ads well, BookBub is subscribed to by readers who are looking for deals. Some of them will be looking for free books, so obviously BookBub is great for publicizing a free run. They also buy, I mean, BookBub made that clear. They've got the data that suggests that readers will buy as well, and also buy at full price. But this one is appealing to the free reader crowd, and what Trisha will be hoping to achieve with this ad is to get people into her writing, into her series, and then they'll progress through and buy subsequent books that come along.
Yeah, and as Dave pointed out in the interview, you can't use these ads for list building, so you can't have a sign-up page on the end of this, but you can give a book away for free, and once hopefully your reader likes your stuff. You
can use them for list building. What Dave's right, you can't send them to a landing page where they sign up, but what you can do is run a big free promotion like this and make it very, very clear. This could be a reader magnet, so they could go to Amazon, download the free book, doesn't cost them anything, and then at the end of the free book there's a chance to sign up for the second book, which is also that's your magnet to get people to join your list. So you definitely can use them to build your list. You just can't do it you have to have one step in between.
Indirectly.
Yes.
Good. And Dave's a big fan of the offer, as you rightly pointed out, Mark. That's why a lot of people subscribe to BookBub, and they like offers, they like bargains, because these are people who read lots of books, and it can get expensive for them. So that's a really good thing to do. Let's look at example number 3. And
so
this is one of Dave's itself.
Let's get digital by David Gaughran. I think this is a bit of a chancer, this character, and I wouldn't recommend this book at all.
Yes, you would.
Well, it would be one of the first books I ever read when I was getting into self-publishing. So yeah, I absolutely would recommend it. It's excellent. So again, just to describe it, it's got a keyboard as the background, which doesn't look too busy. It works quite well. Then he's got a 3D image of what looks like a hardback book, which is kind of curious because people won't be buying this in print. Although I'm sure he does sell a good number of them in print. But got it as a 3D hardback, and then in that yellow and black text that he favors in his ads, Kindle Daily Deal today only. So establishing a little bit of scarcity. So you want people to get over there quickly. 99 pence. So there's the price, and save 75%. So it's lots of strong messages there. And his book cover itself, I mean, that he doesn't need to describe in the ad copy what the book is, because you can read quite clearly. And I think you would even be able to read this on the BookBub email, which is a little smaller. how to self-publish and why you should. Let's get digital, David Gaughran. So every message that he wants to get across there is contained in the ad in one way or another.
Yeah, excellent. Very, very bargain heavy on that. 99 pence, save 75. So I've been helping my daughter with her GCSE maths revision this week. So that'd be a classic question there is, what was the original price?
Well, I think it would be 99 times 4, James, wouldn't it?
99 times 4.
Isn't that right?
No.
Well, 25%.
No, 75% off. It's going to be about 175 or something like that. It's complicated.
Oh, right. Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I've
we're
got
not doing
people.
it now. It's just struck me.
We don't do maths.
We don't do math. We have a final example to look at here, which is from Lucy Kevin.
It's actually Bella
No,
Andre.
it's from Bella Andre.
Yep. Lucy Kevin is a pseudonym for Bella.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, yes.
She's combining her pen names.
She outed herself a while ago as Lucy Kevin. So just a slightly different tone from her other books. I think Lucy Kevin is a little not a little less racy than Bella's normal stuff. So anyway, again, so very straightforward. We've got a kind of a pastel blue background. It looks like the boards of perhaps a beach hut. At least it would strike. That's what it suggests to me. The book is called A Summer Wedding, with a cover of a bride and groom on a beach. So it's definitely setting out that kind of coastal theme. Fun, flirty, and romantic is the copy. 5 stars beneath that. Sale, 99 cents. Again, in kind of slightly less shouty yellow and black. And then at the top, a strapline, New York Times bestselling author. So tons of social proof there. So New York Times bestselling authors, they sell lots of books. So immediately a reader would know that this isn't some fly-by-night author. They've been doing it for a while. You've got the 5 stars there setting out that and the price. So a nice, effective ad, not too in your face, but that would be, I think that would convert quite well for that particular market.
Let's talk about colours, because there's a psychology, isn't there, of colours and adverts, and I've seen yellows quite prominently in quite a few of the ads we've looked at.
Yeah, yellows and oranges work quite well on online platforms. I've no idea why. There may not be a psychological reason behind it. It might just be that they are displayed well on digital devices. I really have no idea, but I've always found my best performing ad ever, and I've served literally millions of impressions now. My best performing one is a very bright kind of sunsetty background with a single figure silhouetted against it, so quite orange. That's always been the one that's worked best. And then just after that, a slightly lighter, a light red with the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge in the background has always worked quite well as well. So no idea why that is, but these, Dave's obviously landed on yellow as being a color that converts quite well. It does stand out well, yellow. And I think if you look at, I'm not an artist, obviously, but we could get Stuart Bache to talk about this. But I think I remember reading somewhere that black stands out particularly well on yellow.
Okay.
So there's
bumblebees. It works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, whether Dave knows that or has just come to that through testing, I don't know. But I remember reading that's a particularly good combination, black and yellow.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Look, that's the BookBub Ads platform. Don't stop applying for the daily deals, as the feature deals, as Dave says. I mean, they are fantastic and still brilliant for people.
As Mark says, I'm Mark. Hello.
Yeah, but Dave also said that.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I haven't heard that. I believe you.
Because you haven't heard his interview yet, but
No.
he does say that. And he says still apply for them. And I know it's frustrating when you don't get them, but the BookBub people always tell us, just keep applying, and you'll get that.
I got turned down last week. I
Did
hate
you?
BookBub. Did I say I like BookBub?
Angry
They're
man.
dreadful. They're
Are you
dreadful.
angry?
Bunch of useless charlatans.
They're lovely, lovely people. I'm looking forward to meeting up again at the conferences this year. Okay, look, I've got an overheating camera. It went off in the middle of that, but it's back on now, and which is good for people watching on YouTube. You don't miss me because we've got backup cameras. Now,
I don't miss you.
That means we're going to have a little break and a coffee, and we're going to come back and we're going to record Friday's episode. So we had Facebook ads so far. We've had BookBub ads. We're going to finish off with Amazon ads tomorrow, and also going to talk about your foray into the German market, translation, and all of that. Okay, that's it from our second bonus episode of this first week of June. And I was going to give the date away. Do you remember we said about the Book Brush webinar, which is coming up? So just to say that again, that is going to be on July the 2nd. That is BookBrush, which is a neat little program, Canva-esque program to help you produce images for your ads. So it goes in very nicely with these series of podcasts. And to be eligible to sign up for that webinar, you need to be in the SPF University. So either buy one of our courses or you can very cheaply subscribe to patreon.com/self-publishing show and sponsor the episodes from as little as $1 an episode, and you'll be in the SPFU and eligible for those webinars. Great. That's it. We'll be back tomorrow. So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishingshow. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with The Self-Publishing Show.